Last night, Fox News erupted as Karoline Leavitt, the sharp-tongued White House press secretary, clashed with Rosie O'Donnell in a fiery showdown, trading brutal jabs over Trump's marriage that left the studio stunned. The studio lights glared down, casting stark shadows across the polished desk where Karoline Leavitt sat, her posture rigid, eyes like steel. At 27, she was the youngest White House press secretary in history, a rising star in Trump's orbit, known for her unflinching loyalty and razor-sharp retorts. Across from her, Rosie O'Donnell leaned forward, her face flushed with the kind of righteous fury that had fueled her decades-long career as a comedian and provocateur. The air crackled with hostility, the audience hushed, sensing the storm about to break. Host Sean Hannity, perched between them, wore a faint smirk, knowing this confrontation would light up the airwaves. Last night's broadcast wasn't just a debate. It was a cultural cage match, and both women were armed to the teeth. Rosie struck first, her voice dripping with venom. "Let's talk about the sham that is Donald and Melania's marriage," she said, her words slicing through the studio's silence. "Everyone knows it's a business deal, not love. He's a narcissist who buys loyalty, and Melania's just the latest prop in his circus. I've heard from sources, reliable ones, that she's miserable, trapped in a gilded cage, counting the days until she can escape his chaos. The man's a fraud, and their marriage is proof." Her accusation landed like a grenade, the audience gasping, some cheering, others booing. Rosie's hatred for Trump was no secret. She'd spent years railing against him, from his apprentice days to his presidency. But this was personal, a calculated attack meant to humiliate. Leavitt didn't flinch. Her lips curled into a faint, controlled smile, the kind that signaled she was ready to dismantle her opponent. "Rosie, it's sad, really, how you cling to these tired fantasies," she began, her voice steady but laced with disdain. "You're peddling gossip, not facts. Donald and Melania Trump have a strong, enduring partnership, built on mutual respect and shared values. I've seen them together, worked alongside them. Your sources are nothing but tabloid trash, and you know it. You're not exposing some grand truth, you're just embarrassing yourself." The crowd roared, a mix of approval and outrage, as Leavitt leaned forward, her eyes locked on Rosie. "The American people see through this, and they're tired of your kind of divisive, baseless attacks." Rosie's face reddened, her hands gripping the edge of the desk. She wasn't used to being challenged so directly, especially not by someone half her age. "Oh, please, Karoline," she snapped, her voice rising. "You're a mouthpiece for a man who's made a career out of lying. You think Melania's happy? Look at her face in every photo. She's miserable. And you're just a kid playing dress-up in the White House, parroting his nonsense. The Trumps are a farce, and you're too blind to see it." The audience erupted, some chanting Rosie's name, others shouting her down. Hannity tried to interject, but the women were locked in their own war, the studio a battleground for their clashing visions of truth. Leavitt's composure held, but her tone sharpened, cutting through the chaos. "You call me a kid, Rosie, but I represent millions of Americans who believe in President Trump's vision. You don't get to rewrite his life to fit your vendetta. Melania is a devoted wife, a mother, and a first lady who's faced attacks like yours with grace. You're not speaking truth. You're spitting venom because you can't stand his success." Her words were a whip, each one landing with precision, and the crowd's energy shifted, a wave of cheers rising for Leavitt. Rosie's eyes narrowed, her jaw tight, clearly rattled by the press. Concurrence confidence. The tension was unbearable, the studio a powder keg. Rosie leaned closer, her voice low but seething. "You think you can defend him, Karoline? You're in over your head. I've been fighting bullies like Trump my whole life, and I'm just getting started." The audience held its breath, waiting for Leavitt's next move, as the young press secretary's eyes burned with defiance, ready to strike back. The studio air was thick with anticipation, every eye fixed on Karoline Leavitt as Rosie O'Donnell's challenge hung like a guillotine. The comedian's words, laced with decades of resentment, had turned the debate into a personal vendetta, and the audience could feel the ground shifting beneath the confrontation. Leavitt, unyielding, met Rosie's glare with a fire that belied her youth, her fingers tapping the desk once, deliberately, before she spoke. "Rosie, you talk about fighting bullies, but all I see is someone bullying a marriage you know nothing about," Leavitt said, her voice calm but edged with steel. "You claim Trump's a fraud, yet here you are, spinning stories with no evidence, trying to tear down a woman who stood by her husband through relentless attacks. Melania's strength doesn't fit your narrative, so you invent misery to justify your hate. That's not courage, it's cowardice." The crowd erupted, a surge of cheers drowning out scattered boos, as Leavitt's words cut deep, exposing the fragility of Rosie's accusations. Rosie's face twisted, her composure cracking under the weight of Leavitt's counterattack. She slammed her hand on the desk, the sound echoing through the studio. "Don't lecture me about courage, Karoline. I've taken on bigger sharks than you and Trump combined. You think Melania's some saint? She's a prop, a trophy he trots out when it suits him. I heard from people close to her. She despises him, despises the life he's forced her into. You're defending a man who'd sell his own family for a headline." The audience gasped, the raw venom in Rosie's voice pushing the confrontation to a new edge. Her attack was a gamble, doubling down on her unverified claims, but it was clear she was losing the room. Leavitt leaned forward, her eyes narrowing, voice dropping to a lethal whisper. "You heard from people, Rosie. Name them. Give us one shred of proof." "You can't, because it's all in your head. I've been in the White House, worked with the Trumps, seen their bond. You're not exposing a scandal. You're fabricating one to feed your obsession. The American people deserve better than your conspiracy theories." The crowd roared, Leavitt's precision dismantling Rosie's narrative piece by piece. Hannity, sensing the shift, tried to steer the conversation, but Leavitt wasn't done. "You say you fight bullies? Then why are you attacking a woman who's done nothing to you? That's not strength, it's spite." Rosie's eyes flashed with fury, her voice rising to a near shout. "Spite? You want to talk spite? Trump's built his empire on it. He's a con man, and you're his cheerleader, Karoline. You think you're speaking for America? You're speaking for his ego." The audience was a sea of noise, some chanting, "Rosie!" while others clapped for Leavitt, the studio splitting down the middle. Rosie's outburst was raw, unfiltered, but it was backfiring. Her anger made her seem unhinged, while Leavitt's cool resolve was winning hearts. Leavitt didn't blink, her voice steady, cutting through the chaos. "I speak for the millions, who voted for him, Rosie, who trust him to lead. You call him a con man, but you're the one conning this audience with lies about his marriage. Melania's not a victim. She's a partner, a mother, a force. Your attacks don't weaken her, they expose your desperation." The crowd's cheers swelled, Leavitt's words resonating with a clarity that Rosie couldn't match. The press, Secretary's youth, once a target, was now her strength, her conviction outshining Rosie's rage. Rosie's hands trembled, her face a mask of frustration. She leaned back, then forward again, pointing at Leavitt. "You're naive, Karoline. You think you're winning? Trump's house of cards is collapsing, and you'll go down with it. I'm not done exposing him, or you." The threat landed, heavily, the studio falling silent, as Leavitt's lips parted, ready to unleash a response that could end Rosie's tirade for good. The silence in the studio was deafening, Rosie O'Donnell's pointed finger trembling as her words echoed, a desperate final salvo in a battle she was losing. Karoline Leavitt sat poised, her expression unreadable, but her eyes alight with a fire that promised devastation. The audience leaned forward, breaths held, as the young press secretary prepared to counter a threat that had turned personal. Sean Hannity, usually quick to steer, stayed silent, sensing the moment was too raw, too electric to interrupt. This wasn't just a debate anymore. It was a public reckoning, and Leavitt was ready to seize it. "You're threatening me now." "Rosie?" Leavitt's voice was low, deliberate, each word a blade. "That's your play? When you can't win with facts, you resort to intimidation. It's pathetic." The crowd erupted, a wave of cheers and gasps, as Leavitt leaned forward, her gaze piercing. "You say Trump's house of cards is collapsing, but the only thing crumbling here is your credibility. You've spent this entire segment slandering a marriage, attacking a woman you don't know, and now you're coming for me. America sees you for what you are, a bitter opportunist who thrives on division." The audience roared, the energy tilting decisively toward Leavitt, her youth and poise transforming into weapons of precision. Rosie's face contorted, her hands dropping to the desk with a thud. "Bitter? Opportunist?" she spat, her voice hoarse with rage. "You're the one propping up a man who's made a mockery of this country. Trump's marriage is a lie, and you're too young, too brainwashed to see it. I've got sources, people who've seen Melania's misery up close. She's a prisoner, Karoline, and you're defending her jailer." The accusation was desperate, a rehash of her earlier claims, but it landed weaker now, the audience murmuring, some shaking their heads. Rosie's repetition was exposing her lack of substance, and Leavitt pounced. "Sources again, Rosie? Still no names, no proof," Leavitt said, her tone icy, cutting through the noise. "You're recycling the same tired lies because you have nothing else. I've worked with Melania, seen her dedication, her strength. She's not a prisoner. She's a partner who's faced people like you with dignity. You're not exposing Trump. You're exposing your own obsession with tearing him down." The crowd's cheers were deafening, Leavitt's words resonating with a clarity that left Rosie visibly shaken. Hannity raised a hand, trying to regain control, but Leavitt pressed on. "You call me brainwashed? I'm here representing the American people who are sick of your venom. They want truth, not your fiction." Rosie's eyes widened, her voice rising to a near scream. "Truth? You wouldn't know truth if it slapped you. Trump's a fraud, his marriage is a fraud, and you're his puppet. I've been in this game longer than you've been alive, kid. You don't get to lecture me." The outburst was raw, unhinged, and the audience recoiled, some booing, others shouting support for Leavitt. Rosie's anger was consuming her, each word digging a deeper hole, while Leavitt remained a pillar of control, her every response tightening the noose around Rosie's narrative. Leavitt's lips curved into a faint, confident smile. "You're right about one thing, Rosie. You've been in this game a long time, and it shows. You're stuck in the past, clinging to grudges, while I'm here fighting for a future millions believe in. Trump's marriage is stronger than your attacks, and so am I." The crowd exploded, clapping and chanting Leavitt's name, the studio shaking with their fervor. Rosie's hands clenched into fists, her face a storm of frustration and disbelief, as Leavitt's words stripped away her last defenses. Rosie leaned forward, her voice trembling with fury. "You think this is over? You think you've won? I'm not done, Karoline. I'll keep coming for Trump, for you, for all of it." The threat was desperate, a last gasp, and the audience held its breath, waiting for Leavitt to deliver the final blow that would end this war of words. The studio was a cauldron of tension, Rosie O'Donnell's final threat hanging in the air like smoke after a gunshot. Her eyes blazed with defiance, but the tremble in her voice betrayed her unraveling. Karoline Leavitt sat across from her, unyielding, her calm demeanor a stark contrast to Rosie's fraying composure. The audience, electric with anticipation, waited for the press secretary's response, sensing the confrontation was hurtling toward a decisive end. Sean Hannity, usually quick to interject, leaned back, letting the moment unfold. This was no longer just a debate. It was a public verdict, and Leavitt held the gavel. "You're not done, Rosie?" Leavitt's voice was steady, each word measured, yet piercing. "You've been swinging for years, and what's it gotten you? Nothing but a platform to spew hate. You say you'll keep coming for Trump for me? Go ahead. You're fighting a losing battle, and deep down, you know it." The crowd erupted, cheers and applause shaking the studio, as Leavitt leaned forward, her eyes locking onto Rosie's. "Melania and Donald Trump's marriage is a testament to resilience, something you can't comprehend. I've seen their partnership, their commitment. Your lies don't touch them, and they don't touch the millions who support them. You're not a truth-teller. You're a relic, shouting into a void." Rosie's face crumpled, her hands gripping the desk as if to anchor herself against the tide of Leavitt's words. "A relic," she shouted, her voice cracking. "I'm speaking for the people who see through Trump's con. You're the one in a void, Karoline, blindly defending a man who's fooled you all. Melania's trapped, and you're too naive to see it." The accusation was a desperate echo of her earlier attacks, but it fell flat. The audience jeering, their support coalescing around Leavitt. Rosie's repetition, her lack of evidence, had stripped her of authority, and the room felt it. Leavitt's smile was faint, almost pitying, as she delivered her final strike. "Naive? No, Rosie. I'm clear-eyed, standing for a vision of America that's bigger than your grudges. You've spent this entire debate attacking a woman's marriage with no proof, no substance, just your anger. The people watching, the people I represent, they see through you. They're tired of your noise. Melania's not trapped. She's thriving. And so is this administration. You're not exposing anything but your own irrelevance." The crowd's roar was deafening, a tidal wave of approval, as Leavitt's words landed like a knockout punch. Rosie's eyes widened, her mouth opening, then closing, as she struggled to find a retort. The studio was alive with energy, the audience chanting Leavitt's name, while Rosie's shoulders slumped, her defiance crumbling. "You think you've won?" she muttered, her voice barely audible over the crowd. "This isn't over." But the words lacked conviction, and the audience's jeers drowned them out. Hannity, sensing the end, tried to pivot. "All right, he began, but Rosie cut him off, shoving her chair back with a screech. "I'm done here," she snapped, ripping off her mic and storming toward the exit. The crowd gasped, then cheered louder as Rosie's figure disappeared through the studio doors, her exit a surrender to Leavitt's unrelenting resolve. Leavitt sat back, her expression composed, a flicker of triumph in her eyes. Hannity turned, to her shaking his head in awe. "Karoline, you held your ground tonight," he said, and she nodded, her voice steady. "I didn't just hold my ground, Sean. I spoke for the American people and they heard me." The audience's applause swelled, a final ovation, as the cameras panned across the studio, capturing the moment that would dominate headlines. Social media was already ablaze, posts hailing Leavitt as a conservative titan, her defense of Trump, and Melania resonating across the nation. Rosie's reputation, meanwhile, faced a brutal reckoning. Her meltdown a cautionary tale of unchecked rage. The clash had reshaped the narrative, proving that in the arena of public perception, truth and conviction could still prevail.